So solving quadratic functions, we're going to go through 3 examples to show one method you could use to solve these. So given the following quadratic function, we've been introduced to factoring. And so to factor this, we would say, okay, well 1 times negative 170 is negative 170. And factors of negative 170 that add to our b, our 7x, would be positive 17 and negative 10. So instead of 7x, we're going to put in positive 17 and negative 10. Now we have our 4 terms, so grouping in sets of 2, and we see what's common that I can pull out of the first set. Well, they both share an x in common. So pulling x out of x squared leaves me with x, and pulling x out of 17x leaves me with 17. Out of the other pair, they share a negative 10 in common, which leaves me with x plus 17 again. These match, which is what I want. So they become our first term, and what we pulled out front becomes our second term. Well, if I have 2 things that are being multiplied and I want to get 0 as their product, that just means that one of them has to be 0, because 0 times any number is 0. So this allows me to set each of them individually equal to 0. In the first case, if I minus 17 to both sides, then I get x equals negative 17 as one possible solution. In the second case, if I add 10 to both sides, I get x equals 10 as the second possible solution. So to solve this, factoring is one method we can use to find both solutions, but that is if it factors. So given a second example, say I'm given x squared minus 40 equals negative 3x. The first thing I need to do is get everything to the same side. So I'm going to add the 3x over. So by adding it over, I end up with setting the whole equation equal to 0 again. Then this looks just like what we started with on the first example. So at this point we would say, okay, factors of negative 40 that add to equal 3. Well, that would be positive 8 and negative 5. So putting that in for 3, I get 8x minus 5x minus 40 equals 0. Grouping in pairs of 2. Out of the first pair I can pull out an x again, and I'm left with x plus 8. Out of the second pair I can pull out a negative 5, and I'm left with x plus 8. The x plus 8's match, so they're one term, and x minus 5 is our other term. Once we're to this step, we set each of them individually equal to 0. So minusing 8 to both sides, we get x equals negative 8 as our first solution. Adding 5 to both sides, we get x equals 5 as our second solution. Okay. One last example. If I have 2x squared plus 5x equals negative 3, once again, the first thing we need to do is get everything to the same side. So we're going to add that 3 back over to where the x's are and get this whole equation set equal to 0. Timesing our a times our c, well 2 times 3 gives me 6. I want factors of 6 that add to 5. In this case, are there factors of positive 6 that add to 5? Well, 2 and 3 would be our option. So we're going to put 2 and 3 in for that 5x. So plus 2x plus 3x plus 3. Group the first 2, group the second 2. 2x can come out of that first 2, so I'm left with x plus 1. 3 can come out of that second 2, so I'm left with x plus 1 again. So x plus 1 is my first term, 2x plus 3 is my second term. Setting each of them individually equal to 0. Minusing 1 over gives us that x equals negative 1 is our first option. First minusing 3 and then dividing by 2 gives us that x equals negative 3 halves is our second option. So if something factors, we're just able to factor it, set the individual factors equal to 0, and solve each one individually.